Well, this month of May, we have been playing Living in the Fourth Dimension. That goes beyond the third dimension, that goes beyond our physical plane. And yet the fourth dimension is really our true home. That's where our soul, that's where our spirit comes from, always resides, and always will be there. It is infinite, it is unlimited, it is a constant provider and source of all. We have it right here, but we can't see it and taste it and touch it like we can our physical being. And so we need to make more of an effort to recognize it. We've looked at some qualities this month of what the awakened ones have. These are the folks that have gone into the fourth dimension more often than many of us are. And so John Randolph Price gave us 5 different qualities, and that's the ones we've been playing with this whole month. And the first quality that those folks display is spiritual priority. They make it a priority to look at their spiritual life and to live from that spiritual life. And the second quality they demonstrate is unconditional love for themselves and for all. The third quality is deep peace, and we talked about that last week. Today, we're focusing on discernment and intuition, which is also known as spiritual wisdom and right judgment. The Master Teacher Jesus Christ told us to judge with right judgment. Well, what is right judgment? Right judgment is looking beyond the appearances into the unseen, into the soul, into the source of the person or the situation that is facing us. And from there, then we make right judgment through it. And we see the energy, we see the love, we see the peace that is there, but with our spiritual eye, with our hearts, not necessarily with our physical eye. Unconditional love and deep abiding peace, those are some of the qualities. How do we develop right judgment? How do we get there? As with everything, I have said this more than once, it takes intention. It takes a willingness. It takes a vulnerability to be teachable. And when we are earnest and sincere with our intentions, then we see with the eyes of God. And we listen with the heart of God. And we speak with the voice of God. And we are patient, we're kind, and we're loving, especially to ourselves. We just heard a song before this message began from Scott Calixtine, now known as Grace. And I love one of the songs that he wrote. I changed it a little bit. The first word that he had in his song was let, and I have changed it to yes. Yes, I see with the eyes of God. Yes, I love with the heart of God. Yes, I breathe with the breath of God. Yes, I live in the love of God. Yes, I see with the eyes of God. Yes, I love with the heart of God. Yes, I breathe with the breath of God. Yes, I live in the love of God. That's one of my mantras. I love to sing that all the time. Well, one of our book studies is going through one of Michael Singer's books called The Surrender Experiment. It's basically an autobiography. And as he was in graduate school, he became aware of meditation. So much so that it just absorbed his entire life. He wanted to be in this deep meditation as much as possible as he could be. And we were talking hours on end. But he wanted to reside in that deep, deep peace that he experienced there. In the foreword of the book, he wrote, "Each of us actually believes that things should be the way we want them. instead of being the natural result of all the forces of creation. We are not powerless in the face of events unfolding around us. We have been gifted with the power of will. This battle between individual will and the reality of life unfolding around us ends up consuming our lives. Since most of us only feel good when things are going our way, we are constantly attempting to control everything in our lives. Does that sound familiar? Anyone? Is it really reasonable for us to assume that nothing good will happen unless we force it to? It is to the exploration of this intriguing question that this book is devoted. Is it reasonable for us to assume that nothing good will happen unless we force it to? What would happen if we respected the flow of life and used our free will to participate in what's unfolding instead of fighting it? Am I better off letting go of what I want and serving the same forces of reality that managed to create this entire perfection of the universe around me? There is a bigger picture going on than what this little individual self of me knows. John Randolph Price, in his book Practical Spirituality, wrote, "Think of it this way. In the mind of God, will means the cosmic urge to express. And that expression is always with love, meaning the highest good for all. Your will is your urge to express your fullness of your potentiality. But the radiating force must be controlled by unconditional love. By connecting the powers of love and will and expressing them in your daily life, you will receive all the inspiration, guidance, and enthusiasm you need to chart your course. And when you do, you will notice those challenges falling away and vanishing from your life because you will be moving out of the low vibration of the lower self where problems find entrance into your life and affairs." What is that saying? That's saying when we connect our will with love, with God's will, to be open to the guidance of this higher self that is within us, challenges seem to fade away. We live more and more in the kingdom of God. However, I will say, and I don't want to give anything away, but I will say that as we're reading Michael Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment, he has tremendous success in his life. Although there is one area of his life, one portion of his life, where there was a massive challenge. He got through it. He got through that period, and actually it was the period in time that afforded him the way and the means in order to write The Untethered Soul. If this challenge had not happened, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to write that book. So it turned out to be a godsend, even though at first glance and at first blush, it was horrific. So when we go within, silence out the exterior and go within to where we hear that still small voice, that's where we find the peace. That's where we find the wisdom. One of the bugaboos I think that we have as humans is this thing called making assumptions. Anybody here do that? No, nobody does that. We used to. Yeah. We don't even know we're doing it. That's the thing. We just assume that, of course, this is happening. If we were with someone close, for many years or whatever, we assume that they know what we're thinking, and therefore they should fulfill our desire and our need without us even asking. Then we want to expect them to change the way we want them to be. Real love is accepting others as they are, demanding nothing in return. If we want to change somebody, if we really want to change somebody, what does that mean? Well, we don't like them. We don't like them the way they are. We want to change them. Don McGill Ruiz had written the 4 agreements, and one of them is, the third agreement is, don't make assumptions. And the way we make assumptions is by not asking questions, by thinking that and assuming that this is what's going to be, what's happening, where in reality it may not be happening at all. A quote from H. Jackson Brown Jr. Never underestimate your power to change yourself. Never overestimate your power to change others. This ad appeared in the Atlanta Journal. Single black female seeks male companionship. Ethnicity not important. I am a very good-looking girl who loves to play. I love long walks in the woods, riding in your pickup truck, hunting, camping, and fishing trips, and cozy winter nights lying by the fire. Lovingly prepared dinners will have me eating out of your hand. I'll be at the front door when you get home from work, dressed in whatever nature gave me. Kiss me and I'm yours forever. Call and ask for Daisy. Would you be like the more than 150 men who called the land number and who were quite surprised when they found themselves talking to the Humane Society about an 8-week-old black Labrador retriever? Making an assumption, wasn't it? All of that was true. Very good-looking girl, loves to play, loves to take walks in the wood, riding in your pickup. I mean, it makes this perfect sense for a Labrador. Lovingly prepared meals will have me eating out of your hands. I'll greet you at the door with how nature gave me, and kiss me, I'm yours. We need to be wary of assumptions. We need to stop and ask and confirm, especially when it comes to relationships, because so many of times we think up something in our heads, and if there is a question, we need to go in and confirm, this is what I heard. Is that correct? We are all spiritual beings. We all come from that same source of love, of joy, of unity, of wholeness, of perfection. That's what we are. And when we can, like Emerson said, get our bloated nothingness out of the way, that will come forth. This infinite power is constantly renewing itself, is constantly changing it up. Life is lived every day at the moment. What was yesterday is gone, tomorrow will be, but right now is where life is regenerating itself always. And for us to make an assumption that it should be this way or that way is limiting the infinite. And we need to recognize that life is, that God is. So when we start labeling it good, labeling it bad, we are bringing it into a limited edition of what it is. Joel Goldsmith says, God is. Bless you. That's me. When I start sneezing, I can't stop. I get at least 6 of them in. I read these little quotes from Roy Eugene Davis every morning, and I want to share a couple of them. One of them just cracked me up. He wrote, "All prophets of doom are intellectually incompetent or emotionally disturbed. They don't know or are incapable of comprehending the trends of evolution that transform nature and nurture the spiritual awakening of souls. Wow. There is a pristine perfection at the heart and soul of everything. So, if you're a prophet of doom, think about it another time. And that was earlier in the year. I put a star in it because it just cracked me up. But the one today's reading was very typical, was very poignant for today. Discern the difference between your essence, your true self, capital S, and objective and subjective conditions. Live gracefully with flawless understanding. I love the way that, he gives us that live gracefully, living in God's grace is available to us at all times. There's nothing more than this beautiful, infinite being wants than for us to shine our light, to bring forth more of what we are. There's a song that I've been having go through my head all week because I've been thinking about this topic. And it's funny because I sang it in my upbringing in the Methodist church. And I had the Methodist hymnal, and I thought, well, I'll just look it up. And the index is by the first line of the song. I thought, oh, I know the first line. Could not find it in the index. And so, because there was one part of it that I couldn't quite remember. It's only one verse that I can remember to begin with. But there's one tiny bit just didn't seem right. And yesterday when I was on my walk, I take a walk, hopefully most days, I was going through Wright's Field. I think, okay, now I know this. What is it? So I wanted to share it with you because I think that it places us in the right perspective of living this life that we've been given. Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Mold me and make me unto thy will, while I am waiting, yielded and still. Remember to be yielding, to be still, to listen, and to follow the directions of that beautiful, still, small voice. And life will be grand.